So this is my first Instagram live with another person. So please bear with me as I figure out the technology here. I know that Dr. Natasha Jordan, oh my goodness. That's how nervous I am, getting people's names wrong. Dr. Natasha Jordan, the branded psychologist herself, is going to be joining me for a real conversation about allyship, intersectionality, tokenism, race at work, and we are calling this talk allyship is not black and white, because there's so much more to being an ally, working with an ally, what allyship means, how we all have the ability to be allies for one another. And we just need more allyship in the world right now. We live in a very divided, divisive place. So, and then I see Michael's here. Welcome, Michael. Just sharing a little bit about what we're going to be talking about today. And Gigi, Gigi is one of my favorite humans in the world. So just sharing a little bit about what we're going to be talking about, how allyship is not black and white, how there's so much more to being an ally, allyship, what we could be doing with allyship to make the world a better place, make our workplaces better. So Dr. Natasha Jordan, the branded psychologist herself, is going to be joining me momentarily, and we'll chat a little bit more about this. But Dr. J and we met a little over a year ago, because we have a ton in common. We're both entrepreneurs. We're both PhD trained IO psychologists. We're both working mamas, dealing with, at-home virtual school while simultaneously running our businesses and doing all the work that IO psychologists do to really bring, scientific rigor to people at work. Thank you, Michael. But I've never done one of these before. I'm waiting for Natasha to join us. Just to preview what we're going to be talking about. We're talking about allyship, intersectionality, tokenism, echo chambers, just working together across, really core differences, but also looking beyond that as well and seeing what we actually have more in common than we don't. But how can we keep our differences in mind, but also, leverage our differences, and we'll get into all that. So I'm going to invite Natasha. She needs to actually join this for this to work. Oh, and there she is. Perfect timing. So I'm going to pull her in now. There we go. There she is.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm doing IG live like this. I was like, what do I do?
I was like, please bear with me. I've never done this before. But thank you for joining me. We have a couple people on already. I was just previewing a little bit about how we met and what we're going to be talking about. But, I feel like I was introducing a little bit, but can you introduce yourself a little bit to our audiences, and I'll do the same. And I know we're doing the live now, but this will be a recording for people to watch in the future as well. So what are you all about, Dr. J? Tell us.
Yes, so I'm Dr. J, or officially Natasha Jordan, but Dr. Natasha Jordan. I'm also the branded psychologist on Instagram and just throughout social media. So my goal and my purpose is to help psychologists and those who are kind of in the mental health field be able to convey what it is that they do in a way that normal people understand. So I mesh psychology with branding, whatever that is, and I make it happen, just like that.
Yes, you certainly do. And Natasha's been kind enough to help me and my company, Mattingly Solutions, with some of our marketing strategy and branding, and really leveraging social media, particularly to help grow the business, because, and we're going to get into social media and the dark side of it as well here shortly, but yeah, she knows her stuff, so definitely check her out. And then I'm Dr. Victoria Mattingly, or Dr. V, and my company Mattingly Solutions helps companies measure and develop behaviors that result in a more diverse, inclusive, and equitable workplace. So a lot of the DEI work that typically comes to mind, but as organizational psychologists, with Dr. J and I are, we're trained in how we can best use data and research and science to do this work in a really rigorous way. So a lot of the work I do is helping companies figure out how do you actually measure something that seems so, abstract, and like with culture and inclusion, and we actually get down to the brass tacks of what that looks like, so we can identify gaps and then close them later. And part of that work, not only inclusion, but is allyship. And Dr. J and I have talked a lot about allyship, not just as the work I do in my company and in that capacity, but just how the world needs more allyship nowadays. And even in we tend to meet once a week, and even in one conversation, you're my ally, I'm your ally. We're flipping roles. We're supporting each other, even just in a 60-minute conversation. But we've had some good talks, and I feel like we need to share these perspectives with the world. So just like really high level, allyship it's a one-on-one relationship with someone who's different than you in some meaningful way, right? So it could be gender, it could be race, it could be religion, sexual orientation, parents, non-parents, but something that's important to who you are and your identity, working with someone who's different than you in that way for the shared goal of helping each other, especially the person who could use support in that moment, helping that person, accomplish their goals, get through a hard time, but also for the greater purpose of social justice and the greater good, and creating more equitable workplaces and, inclusive environments. So that's what allyship is. But, that sounded really academic, and our conversations get into the nitty gritty. Yes. So I'm curious, I wanted to share a little bit how we started working together, Dr. J, and how that relationship started, but then also like when you started learning more about like the work I do in allyship, just like how that journey that led to us, our awesome friendship that we have today. So I just wanted to hear a little bit from you about that.
Yeah, so how Victoria and I met, we both are huge fans of this guy named Gary Vee, and he's a huge marketer. And I was starting a podcast, and so I'm still trying to iron out the details of whatever that is. This was almost a year ago.
It was,
and so we met each other under one of his comments. Which that's why if you're a psychologist, you need to be in the comments, commenting and meeting people. But we kind of hit it off offline, and then we connected maybe about 4 or 5 months ago on this whole branding thing. And Dr. V was just telling me some of the things that she was doing, and I'm like, look, I need a case study, so let's work together, to make this happen with just dominating pretty much on social media. And so and from there, it might be a little too mushy to call you my sister, but I really just value our friendship that we've just built over time. And it's us just coming together on just shared interests. Number one, IO psychology, but then number two, getting the word out there about what we do. To, of course, we don't have hobbies, we have businesses. So of course, get more clients. So
businesses and kids. There's no time
and
for
kids.
hobbies.
Yes,
absolutely. But I was sharing at the beginning before you hopped on, how we actually have a lot more in common than we don't, right? We're both IO psychologists. We both have our PhDs. We both are running our own business, starting from scratch, bootstrapping everything, like on the ground in one of the hardest phases. Like I've been told by other entrepreneurs, that first year to 18 months is do or die time, and we're living it and breathing it right now. Yes. And so we have all these things in common, and you're Black and I'm white, and we're living in this world right now where in that, I mean, that always matters, race always matters, but like now it is like front and center of our societal narrative, you know, all the work I do, you know, our daily lived experiences. And like, so whenever like you and I got to know each other and you found out I did this allyship stuff, like what was your initial reaction? Like, what have you like, I'm just so curious, like coming in, like what was your perception of the work that I do, especially around allyship?
So, I mean, like anybody, you always hear the terms D, E, and I. Well, actually, I didn't even think I heard D, E, and I until I met you. I've always heard of D and I. Everybody has to do D and I. You know, and it's almost like a faddish thing to even talk about when people just bring it up, you know? And so when I met you, and my first thought was, okay, how is Victoria, Dr. V, gonna bring something different that other people are not doing? And then so when you talked about how you're measuring this stuff, which is what I mean, the basis to our field is what can be measured. Everything can be measured. It's all about how we do that and what tool we're going to use. And so when you started to talk about this whole, the allyship and the course that you have about allyship, when you started talking about the course and I saw the outline and I understood, you know, it is about creating allies. This one big thing, you know, everybody talks about mentorship, right? But not a lot of people talk about sponsorship. And I really do attribute that to where I've gotten today, is people who've literally taken me under their wing and have sponsored me, like, hey, here's this opportunity and I'm going to prepare you to get into this opportunity. And that's what, when you were talking to me about allyship, about how, you know, whether they're Black, like you said, gender, religion, color, whatever that is, everyone needs an ally. But people who are trying to be allies rather than, and I know we're going to get to it, but rather than just having someone as your token, how do you truly come alongside them, listen to, you know, where they're from, have deeper conversations, and then move forward, which of course helps the organization. So I was really fascinated about that. This is not some surface level, you know, DE&I work. This is like true allyship, with a purpose.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that. Yeah. You know, all the research shows in the gender space, you know, women tend to be over mentored and under sponsored. Men get so many more sponsorship opportunities. So the key distinction is mentoring, you know, is I'll support you, I'll listen to you, I'll share my advice, I'll be there for you, which is all great. Like, I don't want to like talk, like if you have a mentor or are a mentor, like keep doing that. That's support. That's still important. We know that matters, you know, in the work context. But sponsorship is like next level. Like, I'm going to use my position of power as a formal leader, having my banging network, you know, I'm going to put this person's name in a hat. I'm going to introduce them. I'm going to pull them up in the organization by doing everything I can.
Get a sponsor.
Get a sponsor if you're trying to move up in your company.
Yes.
And allyship, that's one, like, a sponsorship is one key way one can be an ally to someone else. It's just the distinction. You can't call yourself an ally if you are a white woman sponsoring another white woman. You're a sponsor, and you're doing great work, and don't stop doing that. But you don't call yourself an ally, because like you're a sponsor. Allyship, like I'm like really putting like my line in the sand with that across difference element of allyship, because like that's where the magic happens in regard to like breaking down our own biases, breaking down the systemic biases that we know are, you know, just, you know, I want to get to the tweet that you were telling me about earlier today, but like the systemic biases that are keeping whole groups of people back, like it has to be across difference, or else you're still being a good person, you're still being a good mentor, sponsor, whatever, but you're not being an ally. And so what can you do to like ally up and get your ally game going, especially if you already are doing good work, but all that work you're doing are with people who look just like you. And that's part of the issue, you know. It's part of the issue. I did want to talk a little bit about well, share with me the tweet you saw today, because I think that's really relevant to our conversation.
Yes. So Wells Fargo, I forget who the news anchor was that actually shared the tweet, but where Wells Fargo shared, the CEO shared that when it comes to recruiting, there's just not enough Black people in the talent pool to pull from, as far as recruiting Black talent. They specifically said Black, so that's why I'm using Black. But I found that very, very interesting because, and I think Victoria, you and I talked about this before. I was on this panel of Black psychologists, consulting psychologists, and we were talking about this whole DE&I space. And so one lady said she's been doing consulting psychology for about 20, 30 years, something like that. And she said, it's not that we're not represented. She said, and you and I talked about this, given that Black people make up about 12 to 13% of the population, and those who go into college, we are represented in the workplace. However, when it comes to how she put it, it's unintentional systemic racism in the organizations. She said, how many of these organizations are actually going to where diverse talent exists? Like how many, like I would be curious, being that Wells Fargo, the CEO said that, I'd be curious to have a conversation with him and say, okay, when it comes to your recruiting efforts, are you going to HBCUs? Specifically, are you going to community colleges? Are you going to the places where a lot of this diverse talent is, or are you just going to the normal, good old boy type, places where that you're going to find the look of your company? It's time to change your company a little bit. If it doesn't look diverse in the words that you're saying, and I love what you said, Victoria, about the allyship, you can use that word, you can flaunt it, throw it around all you want, but if you're just surrounded by all the people who just look like you, then how diverse are you really? How sincere are you about your allyship? So I would just love to sit down with him, and maybe that's my next goal, is by the end of the year, get a conversation with him to ask him that. And I think this is where IO psychologists, we are so needed in this space. And a while ago I said, why is it on LinkedIn we're not dominating? We work in the workplace. Like we do this thing with the mind and the conscience and well-being in the workplace, but nobody still knows what we are on even the platform where our target market is. And so spots like this, we want to do the measurements and we want to do the, the statistics and, the fancy things, but maybe sometimes we just need to sit back and think, how do we get to that very basic foundation of what IO psychology is? It's a job analysis. It's the recruitment. We're needed now. And I think there's going to be a lot of more awareness on, okay, we say we want to be more diverse. We do need to be more diverse. Okay, where do we go find those? IO psychologist, I need you to go and help me refine my recruiting process, make sure that it's, of course, legally sound, but also I need to find the people who not only fit this position, but who also fit the future of where we're trying to take our organization. So I think we have a very sweet spot to be there and to make an impact.
Yes, and to help them do it right, because what I see in the DEI space, especially like, okay, we need more Black people, we need more women, we need more, fill in the blank. And then you lead with that. And that's where tokenism comes in. And that's where this myth, which is a total myth, by the way, but this myth, this concept of, okay, it's either we hire diverse talent, but then we lower the bar, and we don't want to lower the bar. And when did the assumption become having someone who is not diverse is an automatically like higher caliber candidate? Like, that's not even true. And there's research that actually shows, the minority group members who make it, into the industry, into the level of leadership, into the fill in the blank, they actually had to work 2 or 3 times as hard to get there. So it's automatically higher caliber talent because it's a smaller pool to draw from, and the cream rises, right? And so okay, tokenism, right? So a company recognizes we need more Black people. We need more Black people in this company. We are so far, if 13% is the national representation, we have 1%. How do we get started? How, Dr. J, do we prevent this from becoming an exercise of tokenism? And how do we still do it right? How do you both hire for diversity, but not turn it into a token exercise?
So I think number one, transparency. Be real about why you're doing what it is that you're doing. You have now realized that you have a problem. what I thought, or I haven't even thought about, you know, why don't I go to HBCUs, or why don't I go to these other pockets to pull in more diverse talent? Be honest about it. And I'll give you a personal example. And you and I talked about this. Two guys. I had two guys. One has been in the business, consulting psychologist for 20, 30 some years or whatever. Another one, he's kind of like early career, you know, or whatnot. Now, one is like, you know, where do I find a Black person, you know, educated Black person to work with me? And it's like, that's what, like, it's almost like, where can I get one? Like, where can I get a piece of candy, like that rare piece of candy? Like, you know, it kind of devalues me, is how I felt about that. It's just straight up devaluing. And it's like, I don't want anything to do with that. You just, I'm going to lose this client if I don't get a Black person. Where can I find it? One of those educated ones, you know, it's very devaluing. But in contrast, this other guy reached out to me and he said, look, I've seen your work for, you know, a few years now. I think that you're amazing. And I'm just gonna be honest. Yes, Gigi, I see what you did.
You just ask, where's the good Black store? Where's that good Black store at?
Yes. And so this other guy, white, both of these are white men. This other guy reached out and he's like, look, he said, I realize that we talk about diversity all the time. We actually do diversity training. But when I look at my staff, I walk into my meeting, I don't see that. And I have a problem with that. So what I'd love to do is, we were talking about sponsorship earlier, I'd love to bring you on my team. You know, whatever it is that you need, like you need mentorship, and I said straight up, I need sponsorship. So he's like, okay. He said, you got it. You have access to every single resource, certifications, you know, this and that. And he said, but when we go out to these clients, I want somebody to also be able to speak to my clients who I don't understand them culturally. And I'm like, yes, it makes sense. You know, don't just pick me because I'm Black, but pick me. I know that you work hard. That's what he led with. However, I also know that we have a problem. Can we work together? Absolutely. The contrast between those two, you have one that is looking for a token. I don't want to lose my business, so where are they? You know, it's like a covert mission or something like that, you know. But then you have this other guy, like, just being straight up and transparent, like, look, I know that you work hard. Like, I seen your work, and can we just partner? Because I have a problem. You know, you're looking for more experience. You're looking to grow as a psychologist in this space with organizations, and we have a problem. Can we help each other out? It's like, of course, yes. Yeah. So I think the way to prevent tokenism is, number one, transparency. People have to do some really in-depth looking, some introspective, you know, counseling with self to see why is it that I'm doing this. And Victoria, I mean, you and I have had, like you said, we've had so many of these conversations, but the one biggest thing that we've always come back to, you and I did not connect because, oh, I need a white friend.
Yeah, I need a Black friend in my IO network. Where can I find one of those?
Yeah, like we weren't like that. Like, I need a, you know, white girl with red hair. You know, I don't have one of those things. You know, no, it wasn't like that. We could, like you, I love what you said. We have connected on so many things that we have in common, despite what people are seeing. Like, you have this chocolate thing down here, and then you have this vanilla thing up here. Like, no, like, we connected on something so much deeper because we get on our calls and we share our struggles, we share our passions, we share you know, like you said, about our kids, our family, you know, where we're going next. We do goal setting together. It's literally that iron that sharpens iron. That's what we do with each other. And so I think more people in organizations, and IO psychologists, again, can start helping to have those conversations on how we can get a little bit deeper, like past the surface level and down into, who is this person that I'm talking to? I want to learn more about you, but I'm going to be transparent and say, I don't have, you know, this type of friend. I don't, you know, I've never been exposed to this type of culture. I just want to sit here and learn at your feet.
Yeah. Without having it, I think the transparency you said, and also just like the authenticity of it, and the willingness to be vulnerable. And I think that's where a lot of wannabe allies go wrong. It's like, okay, I want to do the right thing, but I don't want to say the wrong thing. And I don't want them to know that, you know, I'm trying to learn. And it's like, well, like, just acknowledge, like, I'm white, you're Black, and you know, we're the world's on fire right now, and you know, and even though my heart hurts, like there's things that I will never fully understand, and then the other way around. And I wanted to bring up intersectionality, right? And so like intersectionality is this concept that we're not just one thing. Like you're not just Black, I'm not just white. You know, we're women, we're IOS. And when it comes to like our intersectional like snapshot, we actually have way more overlaps than otherwise,
a lot
which
of
is
overlap.
fascinating, but also makes us, intersectionality makes us like our whole selves in a way, and there's lots of opportunities for us to relate to one another, and also viewing like job candidates, even in your last example, like how do you take an intersectional approach to hiring for diversity, where you value someone's diversity as much as you value their years of experience and where they got their degree from, and you know, like what type of, what they can bring to the company, and like, and diversity could be one of that. It should be, especially when we're talking about like innovation, or having, you know, people representing products of those of the customer base that's buying those products. But like intersectionality when it comes to me and you, so a fascinating example I wanted to share of intersectionality, intersectional allyship in action was, you know, I've struggled the last few months of doing the DEI work as a white person. What is my place? Do I have a place in the DEI conversation, especially focused around race, as a white person? Or do I just need to sit down and shut up, Karen, and, you know, wait till I can start talking about gender again? And I really struggle with that. And you've been my ally on a number of occasions to make it be known that even though, no, I'm not Black, I never will be, there's certain work that I never will do because of that, and that's fine. But there's also a ton of work that I need to be doing, and it'd be a disservice to the world if I wasn't helping companies have these conversations, make database decisions, build out their DEI strategy. And so like, I just know like you and I have had, it's very like these like in the moment intersectional allyship moments, and I'm just like so grateful for you for that, because you've given me the courage and strength to keep going in this space, or even just have this conversation right now and put this out there. And so, you know, just curious your thoughts on intersectionality and allyship, and just like, you know, our ally moments together that we've had.
Girl, I've been waiting for this piece right here. Number one, yes, to your point, Victoria, when you and I talked last month sometime, and you were saying, you know, about the business of D&I, and you were questioning, like, should I be doing this? Mm-hmm. And I straight up told you, you have been called to this work. You're not just doing this because you can, you know, make money or because it's something cool. Exactly. You're doing this because of your passion. And I'm thankful that you and I met when we did, before a lot of the social unrest and many things are happening in our country. I'm glad we met before we did, because I got to know you. And mm-hmm. I can attest to the fact that if any organization is unwilling to hire you, or to have you come on the team, or to get your services simply because you're not as chocolate as me, number one, I think I told you straight up, I wouldn't work with them.
Yeah.
I think because people don't and I think I really love what you were saying before. Allyship does not go one way. It's not that all Black people or all brown people need some, you know, a white ally. That is so far from progress, right? White people also need the allyship of Black people and other brown people in situations like this. If you have an organization that says, you know, okay, you know, we're trying to beef up our DE&I strategy or whatever, but we really feel more comfortable with bringing on a brown person. Well, that brown person who knows that organization is doing that goes against what we do as IO psychologists. That goes against our ethical guidelines. Granted, everything that's going on, still at the very basic to all of this, we're human still.
Yeah.
And you bring something to the table, and I bring something to the table. And when we bring those beautiful things together, it just creates like all of this magic. And yeah. I'll share this quick story that I was listening to this Black psychologist. She's been in the business for about 20, 30 years, something like that. And she said, you know, she had one client, and to the point of this, she had one client, or it's two people in the organization, and they could not get it together. Everything was falling apart, productivity, everything. She learned that one of them, when she was growing up, she could fly anywhere she wanted to in the world on her dad's private jet. The other one grew up in a trailer park, didn't know where the next meal was coming from. When she got these two ladies together to understand their culture and their background and where they came from, they were a force to be reckoned with. Okay. And now automatically when you hear that story, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, the lady probably flying on a jet is, a white lady, and the lady living in the trailer park without anything to eat is a black lady. It's flopped. It's flip-flop. The one lady is a Nigerian. Her dad was, I don't know, rich, I guess. And the other lady was, a white lady that grew up in the South in a trailer park. But when they got together, Victoria, they just had a huge impact on their business. But it took someone to walk in to sit them down and have those conversations. So I think, to what you're saying, we have many of us, and we just sat down and had deeper conversations, we will find that we have more in common that we have different. Yeah. And we can actually, by bringing our forces, our services and things together, rather than thinking that we're competing, or rather, well, I'm black, so you need to go sit down and I'm the only one that can talk about this work. Like, we're not really helping anyone. No. When both of us can walk in with these different perspectives and just make them come together and just literally change the way that people see the workplace. Yeah. I hope that answered the question.
Oh no, I love that so much. And it's really where, like, because right now, especially like even just a few months ago, like, now is the time for a lot of white people to sit down and shut up and listen. Like, that's good advice. It's not bad advice.
Right.
But then what?
Yes.
Okay, after we listen, then what? And it can't just be, okay, I sat down, I shut up and I listened. I did my job. I'm an ally. Now I can, live with myself. It's like, no, like, what are we doing to then build upon what you learned by listening? And also, like, how can we advance this conversation together? And this is where I wanted to bring up the final point about the echo chamber that we're in right now. With the pandemic, any sort of like live interactions are out the window, right? We're not getting the most of us. Some of us still get the privilege of going into work, but a lot of us don't get the cooler conversations. We don't have that everyday exposure interaction. All we have, our key platform of interaction right now is social media. And you used the term psychological warfare the other day. I want you to tell more about that, because, like, we're in an echo chamber right now, and it is creating even more divisiveness that already exists in the world, and it's making a bad situation worse. But tell me about psychological warfare and how, what's the state, and then let's talk about our recommendations for, like, moving beyond this, because the world needs help right now.
so yes, you and I were talking about this, and you said something so beautiful. You said, is being on social media making me more of whatever political party I am than what I really actually am? Because I see people saying this, and then it's like, then I repeat it, or I either start believing it. We are psychologists. If anyone should pick up on this, we are the ones that should pick up on it. A few years ago, I gave a talk at a church that were trying to have these different conversations, which, again, if you're a religious person or you're a spiritual person, even in these places of worship, they need our help, our services to have these conversations. So anyway, a few years ago, I gave this talk, and I said, this is psychological warfare. If you're constantly on, and let's think about it. Let me give context to what I'm saying. When you get onto Facebook, what is the first thing that it says? It says, tell me what's on your mind, or tell me what you're thinking. Now, those of us who have been on Facebook since, 2005, 2006, when it was, first coming out, I can't even remember if it said it then, but I know at least over the past 5 or 6 years, it's been saying that little piece. And it's like, we get on there and we literally say, this is what's on my mind. And if you don't like it, then you can go kick rocks. Or it allows us to surround ourselves with people who are going to say and think like we do.
Because the algorithm knows we'll stay on longer if what we're feeling is being validated, or even getting pushed even further down the rabbit hole. And it's like, oh, like, this not only affirms what I said, but it triggers me, and I'm getting the dopamine hit. I'm just going to keep on scrolling. But sorry, I interrupted.
No, thank you. That's that psychological piece. They understand the brain. They Facebook and all these other social media platforms, they employ IO psychologists.
I know a number of them. I know it.
There you go. It's like they're using us. Now, I know this is very extreme, but even the movement of what Hitler was doing, it was first birthed on the desk of intellectuals and philosophers and psychologists before he even got those ideas out there. He employed us to help to do that. I'm not blaming anyone. I'm just saying that we have to recognize that this psychological warfare that's going on the social media platforms. And if we become consumers of the content and what's being put out there rather than users of it, which is what I advocate for branding and marketing, we begin to start, our brain starts to think like, okay, that person said that, that's a trigger word. And I think I was saying this too, Victoria, when you and I were talking about this, you know, now as a Black woman, you know, it's like, okay, you're Black, you're in this box. So there are certain things you cannot say, you cannot believe in, you cannot agree with because you're Black. As a white woman, you're in this box. There are things you cannot say, you have to believe in, or, you know, whatever. We now have put each other in a box. So now when we're sitting around our family or our friends or even colleagues, and somebody brings up one trigger word, everybody like is all up on arms. And if you disagree with them or if you agree with them, then you lose friendships.
You're out. You're canceled.
You're out.
You're canceled.
You're automatically, yes.
Over.
And so it's like in the workplace, how do we, and I love what you said, because the question needs to be in every single part of this. I am a psychologist. You can have your beliefs, you can have your ideas, you can have, you know, whatever it is, be on whatever political spectrum you want. My husband and I, we choose to not be on either. And a lot of people, especially Black people, have a problem with that. Like, why don't you? You know, you should believe in this and you should believe in that. But it's like, I believe that we are all human. We have similarities and we do differences. And when we work together, a lot of these woes that are in our society can be changed, can be fixed. If we come together. The whole system, we're talking about systemic racism and, you know, in organizations, but there's a systemic system right now, a systemic platform right now, and it's called social media. And if we're not careful, then these platforms will determine what we think, what we feel, who we interact with, how we will interact with them, who we like, who we don't like. And now we're not thinking for ourselves anymore. So there's this really sweet spot in our country specifically. And I think I've been all around the world. And there's one thing that brings people together, and it's food, which is very interesting. But there was this one lady, and I'll tell you, and I want to give context to it. She was from Romania. My son and her grandson play together all of the time, okay? You have milk chocolate or milk and then chocolate playing together all the time. They thought they were brothers, okay? Her son, who was in the Romanian Navy, he married a Navy officer in America. So he got out and now he's a stay-at-home dad, which I think is really cool. The Romanian mom, his mom came over to watch the son because he got a job. Now, because our son still wanted to play together, I would go over and pick her up. We would go to VBS. We would go to a grocery store. We would go all over the place. Now, what was interesting was she didn't know English at all. So I'm trying to get her to teach me Romanian. And so her grandson, my son's friend, he knew Romanian. So he would it's like, oh, okay, that word, okay. We did this for almost 2 weeks, Victoria. Almost 2 weeks. At the end of 6 months, when she was going back home to Romania, do you know what she said? She told her son, which is the dad, she said, tell her she has the heart of Romanian. What? At first I thought it was really cool. But then as I've gotten older, it's like, why is that? I couldn't speak Romanian. She couldn't speak English. How is it that she would say something so profound like that? And it was taking time to just spend together, eating, because we ate a lot, seeing our kids playing with each other, you know, and I think we as psychologists have this opportunity, I as psychologists specifically, to walk into the workplace and to just get people to sit down and have conversations. Yes, we're all different. Yeah, there are so many problems in the world. And like you said, Victoria, you know, you're not Black and there are many things that you don't know about, and vice versa. I'm not white and there are many things that I don't know about. But what I do know is that you are human and that I am human. You have struggles just like I have struggles. And when I sit down and I can just listen to you and you listen to me, and where can we meet in the middle and how do we move each other forward? That's when I think change is going to start to happen, especially in the workplace. We got to stop having these shallow surface level things and dive a little bit deeper.
I love that story so much, and I do think it really does relate to this echo chamber of social media and the psychological warfare we were talking about earlier, because what social media does in our echo chambers, it reinforces this concept of otherness.
Yes.
So you are an other, and you are out of my group. And the same point you made earlier about like, well, there's certain words we don't use in our family or in this circle. You know, if you use that word, you're canceled, you're out. Now you're one of the others. Only the others use that word. And the thing I love about allyship is it intentionally acknowledges our otherness, but brings us together because of it. Because at the end of the day, all the beautiful things that you just said, like that can only happen if we come together and understand each other, understand our otherness. You know, I'm drawn to otherness. There's this concept. It's an awful word, but it's called allophilia. It needs rebranding. Bad. We should have a branding conversation about how to rebrand that word. But it's what do we get when we're beyond tolerance? When we're beyond saying I accept your differences. But what do we get whenever we say I embrace your differences? I seek out differences. Like when I became a new mom, I wanted to learn about how all the moms took care of their babies. You know, like how does baby wearing look like cloth diapers, like all these, like the otherness of other people's way of approaching motherhood made me a better mother because I had more to draw from. It's the same with this, the otherness of our other perspectives, the communities that we belong to, the backgrounds we come from. That's how we can co-create a better world together. And I feel like, I don't know, do you have any closing thoughts? I feel like we should just end. Like that was like closing thoughts, Dr. J.
I would end with, this is why I'm so passionate about branding and marketing. Branding and marketing creates a level playing field for everyone. And I think that we as IO psychologists, we have got to get from behind the journals. We've got to get from behind the statistics. We've got to get from behind like all the other things that make our field great. Yes, we have got to get from behind that, and we have got to start finding the individual in IO psychology.
Yeah.
We got to let go of the industrial and get to the individual of IO psychology. And I think once we do that, we'll start to see that not only will people start to learn what it is that we do, but they'll also learn why we do what we do. Yeah. And I think that I just think that's powerful. I just think it's very powerful.
Yeah, I love that. And I think, you know, my big take home from, you know, our friendship and all the allyship work I do and just the state of the world right now is, now more than ever, we need to be intentionally crossing our divides and coming together and having the awkward, uncomfortable conversations, going there, being okay with messing up, being okay. You're being vulnerable with me. It's okay if you say the wrong word, and I'll correct you. But we're building the relationships that we can correct each other and that we can move forward and learn and co-create a better world together, because 2020 sucks. So like we all are ready for a better world, and the only way we can do this right is together. So thank you so much for joining me. This is my first one of these. Yeah, this is phenomenal. I'm sure we'll do more in some capacity, but I'm gonna post this and share it and download it, all the things. So, but I'm just so grateful for you and our friendship.
For you.
And
I just want everybody to know, this is my sister. Find you a sister like Victoria. That you can just laugh and be funny with and
I love it.
Grow IO psychology with.
Yes, I love it. All right. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. You too.
And I will talk to you soon.
Okay, bye.
Thank you all for joining us.